All right, boys, we got a tier list for all the maps where I rank them, explanations for how playable I think they are, both when it comes to matchmaking or pugs and when it comes to competitive play, because I think there's definitely a bit of a difference between both. So we're going to try and average those out if we can, but at the very least, I'll give you a decent explanation for it. And we got the cat in the background. Hopefully you can't hear him too loudly. Let's just go straight through the list is what we got. Cache is tough because Cache is definitely a playable map when it comes to pugs. For pugs, Cache is absolutely playable. The problem is competitively Cache was stale when it was taken out of the map pool, and they didn't really change too much about the way it played, except for to add a couple of extra things that make the map less fun to play. If you were to, in one word or one arguable word, there might be a hyphen, it might be two words, but one word, okay? Valve's design philosophy when they update maps, the word you're looking for is off angle, because they do stuff like they did with Cache. And I mean, I suppose to be fair, that wasn't Valve's doing. There's just extra off angles that now you can get on the crate way more easily. Now there's the headshot angle but near the crate. It was updated basically with the intention of bringing it in the map pool. So probably there was a good amount of contact. The thing is, they didn't change the way the map actually played in any meaningful manner. They didn't actually change the way it played. So it's still stale, but they made it less fun. And for that reason, I think we got to put it in a B. I think it's got to be a C. The thing is, for pugs, I would say it's like B plus, A minus. Competitive play, I would legitimately put it in F. It might even be, I think it would be lower than Vertigo, to be honest, competitively. So I think for this, we'll put it in a C. Now we've got Cobble. Here's the thing about Cobble. This is almost like the Mandela effect. For some reason, people think Cobble was a good map. It's unbelievable. Cobble was a trash map. Drop is almost like Ladder evolved to on Train near the end of Train. Ladder nowadays on Train, on CT side, you send your one player there, you send your two players halls, you know, you basically kind of have a bit of a 1v1 where you're trading a bit of utility, and your player Ladder tries to get kills and not die. It's like there's no complicated factor to the way your Ladder player plays. And the T side, I mean, they can clear out Ladder safely by using ridiculous amounts of utility, but you know, it's really uncomfortable. And that's the way Drop works, except imagine a bigger Ladder room with no ladder. You just drop down, and once you're down, you're stuck there forever. I don't know how people have convinced themselves that Cobble was a good map. And not only that, they made it worse. They made it worse after removing it from the pool. The update they made afterwards made it even worse. So Cobble is a solid F tier. The map was not fun to play whatsoever. At certain points, it was CT-sided. At certain points, it was like T-sided at some point somehow. And again, I'll say it again, T-sided maps are not good for the game. They just don't work. Now, Dust 2, layout-wise, I would say Dust 2 for pugs, probably a B or an A. And then competitively, I would say it's a B or a C. However, pug-wise, it just feels like people are 50 times better than their actual skill level when they play on Dust 2. It genuinely feels like that. Mirage is getting to that point as well, where people have just played so much of it that they're just so ridiculously good on the map compared to how they actually are, that you'll have like Faceit 5s that play like Faceit 10s because it's Dust 2. As well, it's just not a lot of fun pug-wise because you can't do it alone. You need your team to control long with you. If your opposing team controls long and you can't convince your team to go 3 long because for some ridiculous reason they're like, excuse me, if we don't play 2-on-2, how are we supposed to hold B? So what we need to do is we need to play 2A so that we can't hold A ever, even though A is clearly the more hit bomb site, and also mid can easily rotate over and play and help support B. I think we need to play 2. It's ridiculous, dude. Like, people on Dust 2. Dust 2 has been around for like fucking 20 years and people still don't understand how to play it setup wise. It's incredible to me. I think it's a B plus. I'm thinking B plus because Dust 2 is a solid map competitively. The problem is that it's a little bit too random. Dust 2 really focuses competitively on mid-round calling, which sometimes can feel a little bit uncomfortable because there is a little bit of kind of randomness that goes into mid-round calling. You can make the right call, but it's not always going to work out. Then, especially because teams have realized that, hey, if we rush long and they try and defend it, they need 3 players committed long. And if they're doing that, then we can rush out middle, and mid is not defended. Otherwise, if they have mid defense and long defense, they have a weak B. So it's like, you can't hold mid B, and A with good holds at the same time. So the T side started at some point to kind of cycle through some very aggressive plays, both out long, down middle, up cat, like just like fast cat with 2 players, a straight out middle or straight up cat, because B is often left on an island and it's not as easy to hold as people seem to, used to think. Definitely with the skyboxes opened up, you can get some more flashes, you can get some more utility. It's not that easy to hold, especially because people have realized, you can smoke B doors from like near cat and that type of thing. So we'll put it at B. Okay, Inferno, I'm not sure why there's 2 of them, but we're gonna use the one I have a pin for. Inferno is clearly in the A or S category. I think we're gonna put this one in the A. Inferno at this point is a map that is really solid. It feels like it's getting a bit stale, a little bit overplayed perhaps, but I still think it's a great map. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. We'll put it in S. I think actually Inferno's got to go in the S tier. Inferno over the history of CS has mostly been the home map. It is the map where most teams are comfortable on it. It's in the middle of most teams' map pools. The best teams ever are typically very, very good when it comes to Inferno. So I've got to put it in S tier, I think, just historically. I think currently I'd probably put it at an A at this very moment, but I think historically, and it feels a little bit unfair because I'm saying historically, even though other maps not necessarily rank like this. Listen, motherfucker, it's my tier, okay? It's my tier list. I can make it however I want, and I say that Inferno is the exception, and Inferno is ranked based on historical accuracy and how good the map has been over the course of the CSGO history. Now, that being said, Nuke is currently like the new Inferno, and I actually think I'm going to put it at the S tier above Dust 2, or sorry, above Inferno. Nuke isn't perfect, and I feel like the vent drop is a little bit chaotic and not really too fun to deal with, especially, by the way, listen, insider information, NA teams fucking blow at dealing with vent drops, dude. NA teams are so unbelievably bad at dealing with vent drops. It's actually incredible. EU teams don't seem to have that much trouble with. I mean, vent drops aren't super easy to deal with permanently regardless, because if you do go for a vent drop, you can deal with the vent drop by having a player mini that spams through the corner of the vent. That's the typical way you deal with a vent drop. However, if you do that, you can have a split where you come over Twinkie and drop mini and you catch that player reloading because he's in a little bit of a tough spot. For competitive play, I think it's probably the top map in the pool right now. For pugs, yeah, it's not a great map for pugs. It's a little bit uncomfortable. I feel like that's my main issue with the map, if there's any issues, but I think it's still the best map in the pool. Hold on, let's add another tier. I think we'll add another tier. So if we add another tier, then I think it looks more like this. We'll shift cash down and then we'll keep Dust 2 here. But anyways, next up is Mirage. I think Mirage is gonna have to go C. Do I really put it lower than Dust 2? No, we're switching it. We're putting Dust 2 as a C and Mirage as a B. I think Mirage is definitely competitively much better than Dust 2. It's stale. The thing about Mirage is people forget that Mirage has not been a bad map. It really hasn't been a map that a lot of teams are super comfortable on, but it's definitely a map, if you remember back, I mean, Kaboom was really sick on Mirage. I've also seen some interesting plays. I remember we scrimmed 100 Thieves and they ran a play where they smoked on top of Ninja in B, and that meant that someone back site couldn't see anybody coming out of balcony, and it was the most interesting exec. It was so awkward to deal with because I think you couldn't see the cross from empty pillar towards the window, which a lot of people play, and you couldn't see from behind ska pillar to balcony. There's still some undiscovered things going on that map that I think are definitely playable, but it is a little bit stale. It is a little bit overplayed, but I think people forget that it's actually a decent map. It's just a bit stale, and I don't think we can rank it too low just because it's stale. I don't think that's the fault of the map. It is probably the best pug map though. Like for pugs, it's right next to Inferno. I'd say maybe a bit higher than Inferno. It's a little bit arguable because you just play so much Mirage. Tired of Mirage because I play it so much in pugs, but I think if I wasn't tired of it, I'd probably put it as like the best pug map currently. I think Overpass is definitely in the A tier. It's a pretty well made map. It's definitely unique. It took them a while to get it right. I think it plays out very uniquely, which I think is actually something worth noting. I think maps that play out differently than most other maps do bring something different to the map pool and allow different teams to be strong on it, and it forces teams to be good at different strengths if it requires a different playstyle. The best way I've seen Overpass described is Overpass is a map made for 6v6. 1v6. And I think that's a really fair point. Overpass is a map where you can't really control everything with only 5 players. And that actually means that Overpass has a lot of CT aggressions where on CT side, typically when you get kills, you want to turtle up. But on CT side of Overpass, you can play a little bit differently because it's so tough for the T side to control everything. And the T side rotations are fairly long that you can play it fairly aggressively, looking for information with some aggressive plays, even with man advantages, because the information you get can be so pivotal in terms of how you play out the round and allowing your team to rotate. Now, the way CIS teams play Overpass, I don't like it as much because CIS teams are super heavy on that short lurk. They play a lot like aim duel heavy on the B side of the map. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I think the map in general, I think it's a really well made map. I think it's definitely got a good place in the map pool. So let's say Overpass is a solid A. I would say Train is like an A minus. This is like borderline B tier, but it's clearly better than Mirage. Overpass or Train is closer to Overpass than it is to Mirage. And so we're going to put it in the A tier. And Train, the problem with Train is ladder. That's the main issue with Train. If ladder room wasn't quite the way it is, I think it would be a lot better. Train is a map where a team will beat a pug very consistently. Okay. And that's not always true for a map like Mirage or Dust 2 or Cash. Train is a map that requires very good coordination, not only in terms of strats, but on the CT side, your rotations and playing off of your teammate to continue to manage control of outer. Having a yard player and a ladder player that can work together effectively is very important. As well, it does separate the men from the idiots to some extent, because there are still a lot of teams, even high advanced to MDL level, that play Train like it's fucking 2015, okay? Excuse me, guys. I op green Train. You don't op green Train. It's not a fucking play. You don't play Green Train. Green Train is not an opper position. That's not how the map is played. It's 2021. You don't fucking play Green Train. You can go there occasionally. Yeah, your op goes Green Train sometimes. So it definitely does separate the not idiots from the idiots because a lot of people still play it like fucking idiots, okay? That's my opinion on that one. The B side is also a little bit awkward, I feel like. The best way to describe it is that Train is not a map where you play 4A, 1B. What you do on Train is you play 3A, 2B, but you open with 4A to get control. That's the best way to describe it. You open 4A to get control, and then you play 2B, 3A. Occasionally, of course, you can play 4A, and sometimes you're going to open 2B. It's a 3A map where you open with 4 just to get some early control. Pugs-wise, Train has to be in like a C, I think. I think C, Train, Pugs-wise is probably a C. The reason I say that is because your teammates never understand that you need to molly and flash or molly and nade T-con to begin with. So then whichever team rushes A more effectively, and by more effectively, I mean with more gusto and actually force their way out A, whichever team does that is the team that's going to win. Next up is Vertigo. I think Vertigo's a bad map, but we're going to put it at, I think we'll put it at a D. Maybe it's arguably a C. The thing is, I think Vertigo is absolutely not a good map. I think it doesn't play well. We'll put it at a D, I think. Nah. Fuck it, it's an F. Fuck that map. Fuck that map. It's trash. Fuck that map. The thing with Vertigo, it is different. The only benefit to Vertigo is that it's unique. And I think a map being unique definitely does give it something. However, being unique in going A every round and spamming walls all the time, hoping your spams land, hoping your nade stacks land, hoping you don't get spammed through smoke when you're planting, I don't think that's a good form of unique, okay? I think that's a problem. The same way, if Ancient doesn't change their bomb plant zones, Ancient will be a fucking F tier map. I'm saying it outright. If Ancient doesn't shift the bomb plant zones, Ancient will be fucking F tier because the bomb plant zones on Ancient are way too far fucking forward and way too spammable, mollyable, nadeable. They're way too tough to plant safely. I'd say similar to why I think shotguns should never really be strong enough to be fully meta is the reason that bomb plant zones like you have on Vertigo, bomb plant situations, I would suppose, or bomb plant zones like you have on Ancient are bad. It's because they're anti-fun. It's not fun to have to be the guy that plants the bomb and you cross your fingers and you hold your dick and you hope that you can get the bomb planted. That's anti-fun. That's not a part of the game that should be looked forward to or encouraged in the game. So if we're ranking Ancient, now I'll use this second Inferno thing, right? The one that we left off initially that now I can't take off the list. We're gonna put Inferno. This will be the new Ancient. In its current state, I'll put Ancient as a D. Now, the reason Ancient would get a D instead of an F, even though Ancient would seem at face value currently to likely be an F, is because it's still being figured out, and that means that things can certainly change, and I think there is something interesting about maps that are not yet decided. They should be adjusting the map a lot soon. I think for pugs, Ancient has been fun because it's something new. I love to play something new, have some fun with it, and see how things work. I quite enjoy that. So I've enjoyed it for pugs quite a bit. Like pug-wise, I've enjoyed it like maybe B tier. The thing is, it's a little bit different than other maps because it's so new. I can't rank it on how good the map is necessarily as much as I can rank it at how enjoyable the learning experience is. And Vertigo as a learning experience was okay. I'd say it's more like a D, but once the map actually made its way through, it became a lot less comfortable. I'd say Ancient has been fairly fun to actually play recently. Problem is, it still has some glaring flaws, and absolutely the bomb plant zones need to be moved. They have to be moved. They have to be fucking moved. Otherwise, I think the map is going to be interesting. I feel like it might play out a little bit like Dust 2. You're going to have this scenario where the lane at B outside of the doors is going to be contested heavily because the T's have no ability to do anything without that control. But at the same time, you can't contest it as a CT every round. So I think it's going to be one of those maps where you contest it some of the time, but not all of the time. It's going to be a little bit of a give and take there in terms of how you play it. And I think actually it's going to play out fairly uniquely. I think definitely Ancient will play out a little bit differently than most other maps. And I think a map playing out differently than most other maps is a good thing. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's a good thing. It forces you to learn new things, for teams to be more dynamic in terms of how good they have to be in order to be a dominant team. I think there's definitely a lot of good things about having a map like Ancient in the pool. All right, anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Wednesday, Friday, Saturday is the stream schedule. I will get this tier list up on YouTube in a few days as well. Have a nice night, guys. I will catch you next time. Peace out.